Apertura, possibilità per 1 contro 1 con Darmian che deve andare a chiudere sul movimento. Yildiz, quindi il tocco da parte di Openda, insiste che Frentura, palla che resta in mezzo. David ha girato ancora, lo fuori! 4-3! 4-3! Dalla distanza ha colpito Adzic che dice di essere matto. Sommer ci ha messo la mano. 4-3.
Ma che partita è?
Incredibile.
Ma che partita è? Ma cosa ha tirato fuori sto ragazzo? Da 30 metri d'interno una fiammata incredibile.
Il giocatore dell'Inter è ancora.
Ma che partita, 4-3. Oh my goodness. Ciao tifosi bianconeri. Hello and welcome to episode 314 of the Turin Giants podcast. I am Kevin, your host for this episode. Farhad is spending some time with his family in Baku, Azerbaijan. So a shout out to the host who loves us most. You'll have to pardon my audio video setup here as I'm coming to you from a hotel room, have some work obligations on the road, but we are here less than 24 hours after the final whistle was blown to conclude the Derby d'Italia. I was fortunate enough to be there in Turin for the match, and I'm just thrilled to be able to share more about my experience with you in this episode. But first, let's introduce the other members of our crew. We have our dynamic duo, the beautiful bald bastards, excuse me, Zach and Frederic, and we are joined by Damiano, helping keep the balance of those with hair and those without. How are you guys?
Yeah, my man has a very strong hairline up there, so he does a good counterbalance here.
He hasn't been that long, I don't think he's made it through the whole I'm supporting Juventus thing throughout more than 2 decades. When that'll happen, you'll see the hairline starting to fade, so no worries there.
It's definitely getting a little long.
You could donate some to these guys. You don't have enough for a wig yet, but maybe one of these days. Let it keep going. Oh, goodness. As a reminder, we are recording this with video, so you can watch this on Spotify, and I'm certain we will post this to YouTube, as well as you can listen on all major podcast platforms. Make sure to follow us on our socials at Juve Podcast and Turin Giants on Twitter, at Turin Giants on Instagram, where I shared a lot of my Derby d'Italia content. I'm sure most of those stories will have expired by the time you're listening to this. We also have our Instagram scoop account focused exclusively on Juve transfer news and insights at the Scoop Juve. And we have our YouTube account at Turin Giants Official. We always appreciate a like, a subscribe, a follow, a 5-star rating. And we certainly hope to deliver a 5-star episode today, reflecting on the crazy match that was I think it was the 254th official encounter between Juve and Inter. I think that's what I saw in Gazzetta yesterday. But
well, it certainly was a 5-star result, wasn't it? So let's bring our A game today, folks.
And here we go.
Contasini per Nedved, Pirlo, la conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco, Del Piero, palla di Pogacar, Pogba, rete, un gol incredibile, Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium.
It's hard to know exactly where to start with this match. There are just so many different storylines to unpack. We have a match with candidates for goals of the year coming just from the 3rd match day. We have the goals of both the Thuram brothers becoming the 3rd time in Serie A history where 2 brothers have scored in the same Serie A match. So Papa Lilian must be super proud. We have the Turkish showdown, the stars of Çalhanoğlu and Yildiz catching the headlines with wonder goals and positive play. You have a game with 8 shots on target between both teams, yielding 7 scored goals. And coincidingly, an absolute nightmare of a match for Sommer, and not much better for Di Gregorio, I have to add as well. You have the first Serie A goals for Kelly and our 19-year-old Adzic, who many have, as we were talking before recording this, were surprised to maybe even see him on the pitch in the first place. Another poor match for Koopmeiners, at least according to me. I think Zach gave us some heads up that he's going to defend him. Looking forward to that. We have the introduction of RefCam in Serie A for the first time, and all of the memeable images of the two Thuram brothers standing dumbfounded next to each other.
Brilliant, by the way. Brilliant.
Unbelievable. You actually got ESPN FC to post about Serie A, which was actually kind of funny using that image, taking a break from all their Premiership stuff. But and then, of course, a game where we have some serious question marks about Tudor's starting 11, his tactics, the game management. And I think ultimately for me, a game in which I think it's safe to say that objectively we played poorly, yet somehow we scored 4 freaking goals and won the match. And like leaving the game yesterday, my friends and I countless times just saying, just how in the world did we win that game? And we did. And here we are, so excited to talk about it. So guys, before we really start unpacking this, here we are about 24 hours after the final whistle. What's like the dominant sentiment or feeling that you're experiencing today? Zach, why don't we start with you?
So my brother does not follow football at all. And just being curious about what his older brother was doing, he tuned into our joint session with Beppe on Thursday. And then he was like, wow, this is actually kind of interesting, but I have no idea really what you guys are talking about. He texted me, can I come watch this weekend's game with you? And so he comes over. And I think anyone who is a fan of any sports team, they always have that moment or that player or that game that cements their fandom and will live long in their memory because it excited and hit at the core root of passion, which is really the ingredient for any fan. And while the game was absolutely mind-blowing for me, to see that moment in my younger brother in his first ever Juve game made it that much more special. And so whether, this game, obviously a fantastic game, but I'll remember it more so for his experience of it than probably anything else 5, 10, 15 years from now.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Frederic, what about you? How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I haven't gotten much stuff done today because my constant erection is hampering my day-to-day business. No, I mean,
and here we go, boys.
Must seek medical attention.
I warned you. I mean, I'm coming out, all guns blazing.
You're supposed to have that checked by a doctor after 3 hours, Frederic.
Please, no.
Sorry. No, this was for me personally the longest time in a while that I woke up from a good night's sleep and remembered, like, hey, we beat Inter last night. Like, it was something that was a primordial feeling when waking up, and that's something, that excitement, that giddiness, that enthusiasm, for me, that's been lacking in my whole Juventus history for the past 4 or 5 years. That spark that you have, that you really carry a game with you, like 24 hours pre-game, 24 hours post-game, that tingly sensation that gets you all riled up and gets you all excited. And for the first time in years, I had that, like, this morning, and I was so happy that it just sparked something in me. Also, the game, it was a constant roller coaster up and down of emotions, although I was fairly confident that we would win, like I said in our podcast with Beppe. not with my prediction, but I was fairly confident we could beat this Inter. But the way how and just the constant roller coaster of a game that we experienced yesterday made it so much better. And yeah, it was just awesome.
Damiano, how about you, man?
Yeah, touching on Frederick's point,
Hiding in a closet at work watching the game.
screaming. Yeah, it was. I had to, like, I got home, I rewatched it because I was at work, but yeah, it was intense. Touching on Frederick's point, I think the last time I remember a game like this, especially a Derby d'Italia, was like that when Higuain got that header the last minute. San Siro a couple of years ago, and that was like what, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. So it's been a while since we had a game like that. It was an instant classic for sure. It was insane. I feel great though. Like this team it's good. It's good. It's a good. I like what I'm seeing, and it's a great to have this in the beginning of the season. Like a big game like that in the beginning of the season gets us on the right foot and gets us going.
And to about that last point real quick is I heard a lot of people say it's too early in the season to be playing Inter, and Frederic and I both vehemently disagreed with that and defended the opposing position on Thursday. And I think now that we're sitting with a victory, I think no one is disputing that having this win early on in our resume is really has the potential to propel us to be a catalyst for future success.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had such a kind of a lengthy build up to this with the international break, and we did our own preview episode with Turin Giants, and then you two had the opportunity to go on with Beppe this past Thursday. Just before we move on, why don't you guys just do kind of a quick reminder of what the opportunity is that we have with Just Juve moving forward this season?
Every Thursday, Beppe and Turin Giants get together for a live stream at 10 o'clock p.m. Italian time, 3 o'clock Central time, 4 o'clock U.S. Eastern time.
Ish.
And, yes,
Ish.
yes, with Italian promptness, shall we say. So, but it's a fantastic opportunity for us to share different perspectives on various hot topics within the Juventus fandom. And I think it's a really cool opportunity to have two long-standing content creators contribute really cool perspectives. And so far in the first episodes we've done, we've had really active, engaging, and funny comments in chat. And we encourage all of our listeners, if you're able to attend that. It's a really good time, and it only gets better with the more people who are engaged. So join us, please, on Thursdays.
And if you can't catch it live, it is obviously posted to Just Juve's YouTube account, and we get the audio, so you can listen to the audio version. We have 2 posted already, and will be countless more to come this season, which is just such a cool thing to be able to partner with a guy like that in the Juve community.
If I'm not mistaken, Kevin, you'll join us as well on the episode coming Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that'll be fun. I mean, I'm certainly going to talk about my experience at the match today, but we'll get to reflect on that, I imagine, on Thursday as well. And then we'll also be able to touch on the first Champions League match.
And don't worry, folks, he will shave his head in advance. So we got to keep the continuity going with our bald themes. So don't worry, y'all.
My wife might have something to say about that, but we'll see. Oh man. So let's I'm going to go in and just share a bit of kind of my own perspective from yesterday's experience, just being so fortunate to have the opportunity to go to this match. This was my second Derby d'Italia. I went to one last year where we tied 2 seasons ago where we tied 1-1, but it was like the weekend after my daughter was born. This was November of 23. And I went to the first half and left at halftime because I didn't want to leave my wife and like our 8-day-old daughter alone for that long. But needless to say, this was such a better experience. I mean, so I'm 38 years old, and I think if I do kind of I've lived nearly 14,000 days on this earth. I would say most days in our lives, unfortunately, just kind of blend together, right? There aren't very distinguishable one day to the next. We wake up, we work, study, take care of kids, have dinner, go to bed. There are days that stand out that you take with you. I don't know, an engagement, your wedding, birth of a child, an awesome day on vacation, certainly some negative things and tragedy and death and like those are days that you remember. My point is, of all the days that we live, there's a finite number, I think, that really stand out and ones that you can go back to and remember. And yesterday was one of those days that I will always remember. Juve 4, Inter 3, I was there. And it just, as you guys know, it's more than just the sporting element of it, right? And I got to spend it with good friends whom I cherish, and a shout out to Luca and Panu and Luigi and Maurizio if you happen to be listening. And first, I'm always happy to be in Turin. You guys know how much I love that city, having had the opportunity to live there for a couple years. And anytime I'm back, it just puts a smile on my face. And starting the day, went for a run, bumped into Giorgio Chiellini on that run. Later that day, had lunch and beers with an event organized by Maurizio of Around Turin. We happened to be interviewed by Tutto Sport, which is really cool, and that's on their Instagram account now. Also bumped into an avid Turin Giants listener, Luca from Croatia, Luca with a K. I spelled his name incorrectly when I tagged him on Instagram, so shout out to Luca. And then, of course, there's the stadium experience and just going through the emotions of that match. And I think, Frederic, you hit it. I mean, it was, I hate that analogy of like a roller coaster of emotion, but it was that. It's like we were ahead, we were behind, we were ahead, and just the way that it ended in such dramatic fashion. And it was probably the most electric Allianz atmosphere that I've experienced in quite some time. And before the match, I was talking with Maurizio, who, in his defense, he's been to almost every single Juve match. He's into his 40s. He went to so Maurizio of Around Turin. We've referenced him a number of times. Just an incredible local Turinese guy who created this experience with Around Turin to connect Juventini from around the world coming to the city to watch a match. And within the last couple seasons, he actually didn't get his season ticket. And from his perspective, the management and the stadium atmosphere just wasn't what he was used to. And he was saying yesterday how the first couple years at the Allianz, particularly through like those first 9 title-winning seasons, he said the atmosphere was like a 10 out of 10. And he's like, most recently, it's been like a 3. And that meant so much to him because it's not just about the game, it's the people, it's the community. And he went to yesterday's match, and I was really pleased that he did because afterwards he was buzzing on cloud 9. And he's like, that was the environment that I remember. And it was so cool to be a part of that again. And it was just an absolutely awesome day. So I don't know if you guys have any like questions for me specifically about it, or we can just dive right into the match.
So I think the one question I have is that, I mean, through the TV, you could hear the crowd, but what was it like when Marcus scored that third goal where Inter finally pulled ahead of us late in the game? Did the atmosphere die down, or was there a feeling or a buzz in the stadium that this Juventus would come back?
So there were 2 things that I experienced personally. Me and my friend Luca, Italian Luca, were sitting, and Thuram scores that goal. We don't move. I just remember sitting there, just staring, and we were just both completely motionless for maybe 20 seconds. And it's just, holy shit, are we really going to throw this away? But then Curvasu did their thing, right? It's just, they're going after it. The drums start beating. The singing gets louder. I forget exactly what chant they were doing in that moment. But then it's like, wait a minute, we can do this. And there wasn't a doubt in my mind I didn't know if we were going to win at that point, but we're going to get this back. We are definitely going to get this one back. And when Kefren scored the third goal, after I you can still hear my voice isn't quite what it normally is. I'm still recovering from losing it last night. My buddies, I look at him and said, "This game isn't over. We've got one more in us. Like this game is not over," because that's when we actually started playing in like the last kind of 15 minutes or so. And the Curva Sud specifically did not let the team down, and I'm convinced that their energy was a part of what contributed towards that outcome. And that was
I have
really
a
cool.
question concerning that, Kevin, because the last few years we've been quite vocal, and a lot of Juventus fans were too, about the lack of our hardcore curvas being the support that we're used to have them showing at our home games. They did so very much so on away games, but the whole Agnelli
Mhm.
thing and everything that came in between, uh, that created some tension and some division between our ultras. And I now have a feeling, just scrolling through Instagram, like with all these pictures, and that the rise of the Curva Sud is back again under another name, and uh, little groups of Drugi and Viking and whatever,
Mhm.
emerging together as one.
Yeah.
Was that the feeling that you got as well, like in terms of support, like from a ultra perspective, that there was one giant group standing behind the team once
Yes.
again?
And I can't always say that. I mean, even in the first match against Parma, you there were I distinctly remember some of the songs highlighting, like, bringing attention to Curva Sud, that, like, "We are Juventus," like, and there were some signs as well. Um, this one felt very united. I think bringing in Tudor has also helped a lot, just because he is uno di noi, and I think the mentality that he is showing and the respect towards the group, there's progress being made, and I think there are some things happening in the background to alleviate some of the tension that we've seen between some of these ultra groups and the Juve management. The last thing I'll say is, and I don't know if people have seen reference to this on social media, on the news, of signs or emojis of five pears, like the fruit pear. And I don't know if you saw like the Interbus going by in some of these videos, and people holding up these giant signs of five pears. And so if you're trying to figure, I mean, it's in reference to the PSG loss, of course, but why five pairs? And the reason is there's like some Italian slang. The word for pair is pera, and plural is pere. And pere is also used Italian slang for like a goals conceded. So if like you lost 3-0, you could say pre pere. So it's cinque pere. And so they're holding up signs of five pairs, which I thought was really cool.
Hey, Kevin, I have a
And
question
that
for you. In the city of Torino, before the match, was it like how was the vibe, like Inter fans? Because like it's not really Juventus, in the city of like downtown Torino.
Yeah.
So how was the vibe?
I saw a ton of people wearing like Juve kits on Friday and Saturday morning, like even like going along the river, there were a bunch of kids playing and they were all wearing like Yildiz jerseys, which was kind of cool to see. Um, I saw a number of Inter fans outside the hotel where they were staying, but I think it was just kind of congested just in that area. But Turin's a pretty, I'd say, calm city. It doesn't get crazy like it does in the south, but you could definitely tell that something was happening that day with the Juve kind of get up being worn by people.
Another small question, Kevin. Sorry, but this is the
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
that irks me. Like, this is like the Derby d'Italia. This is like a fantastic game, a fantastic commercial for Italian football as a whole. Why the fuck is it played at 6 p.m. European time? I mean, these are games that they're meant to be played like at a later stage, at nightfall with a whole ambience thing that alleviates the game to a whole other level. Why? I mean, was that something, or is that something that bothers you as well? Like, this is a night game. This is meant to be a night game. Why do we play it at 6 o'clock? Because I can imagine you left left for the stadium at around 3, was it, or 2
3.
even?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
I
we
mean,
we
I
we left
noticed on
downtown around
Instagram.
3. Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, I mean, not just because for you, but as a whole, there are people that have to take off like whole chunks of their spare time on Saturday, and you
Yeah.
don't have that same buildup you have if you leave at, let's say, 6, 7 ish to go to the
I get
game.
it. And I don't know. I'm just speaking for myself. I actually prefer it. Like I like it at that time because afterwards, like we went and got a pizza and able to get home like still by kind of midnight. And if you have that like 9 p.m. game, the 8:45, you can't really do anything afterwards. I don't know. Like I enjoyed it, but I get your point. I don't know if the zone just thinks Fiorentina Napoli is a more important match. But let's move into the goals. So we've got some 4 really exciting goals to talk through. Let's just start there. We had some crackers. So Fred, why don't you take us through Kelly's first career goal, I think ever. I don't think he has
Yeah,
scored professionally ever, not just with Juve, but amazing.
it's I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of Kelly last season, and I think we can all agree that last season we saw a player that didn't fit in right away, that we had doubts about, especially given his high transfer fee. He gets bombarded into a team in a whole new country, whole new culture, whole new language, whole new type of play, style of playing football, and we take out the pitchforks and the torches. This man's shit. Let's get rid of him. And like mea culpa, I was the same. Like, I was within this whole negative.
We
But
can all point the fingers right at ourselves.
I mean, yesterday,
Absolutely.
and this is just a goal. You see McKennie, like, who hasn't played that much. Our latest games, gets like a scrappy ball win with a tackle, I think.
2.
Um, 2, yeah.
Twice.
I mean, it
Twice.
was
Yeah.
because the build-up, if I'm not mistaken, was a corner kick first that we fumbled. Dare I
Mhm.
say once again? Um, he plays the ball into Locatelli. Loca sees Bremer, who's has a very good is very good at aerial duels. Doesn't I mean, and if you look at in hindsight, you see how Bremer positions his body. It's a thing of beauty because you think that not being a striker, he'd go in for that ball with his head, but he positions his body further away from his opponent into the trajectory of the ball, plays the ball in a one-time volley, amazing assist. And Kelly, let's call him our least on paper technical player. If we rewind back to like 3 months ago, I think everybody'd say he's our least technical player. He magnificently handles the ball with a one-time touch.
Great
Uh,
finish.
he, I mean, unstoppable. A great finish. I don't think we could see Dusan or David finish a ball like that with all this calm. And what I like most about that goal was the way he celebrated. Like, his you
Yeah.
could see that it was his it was a like a revenge arc came true on that moment, and not just aggressively, but just going through the supporters and letting them know, I'm here, I'm doing whatever I can, and I'm making progress, I'm trying, I'm here, I'm part of the team, I love this team. And a fun fact, my source texted me after that goal, and he said, "Well, it's good to see that Cali staying in Turin for throughout most of the summer is now rewarded by that goal, meaning that Cali, preferred to stay in Turin, learn the language a bit more, the culture and everything." And I think we can all agree that you could see that, and it was so nice to see that. Bremer with a second assist, but also Cali, amazing.
Yeah, so let's hope it's a continued improvement for Kelly as he continues through the season with Juve. But what a better way to start to win over the fans by scoring in the Derby d'Italia. Absolutely amazing. Zach, let's move on to Yildiz's wonder strike.
We're going to get into the tactics of the game later, but suffice to say, Yildiz had a very tough time getting on the ball. In fact, the only really way he could for much of the game was drifting out wide to almost to the touchline, frustratingly so. And so the first really real time he popped up in some space in the middle of the pitch was for this goal. And you see Juventus finally have a spell of possession, trying to weave it around the edges. They don't really have it. Kelly provides a short pass to Bremer, kind of at midfield, and Bremer takes a one-touch pass, lifting up his head and seeing Yildiz in a pocket of space. One-touch pass to Yildiz, who immediately recognizes the opportunity, takes a quick turn, sets himself up, and slots it from 30 yards out into the bottom left corner past Sommer. And I think, one, you credit Bremer now. This is his second assist in this game for picking up his head and not taking that unnecessary touch or taking the touch that everyone expects you to take as a center back, just kind of cycle it around the outside. No, he cuts through the middle, finding Yildiz finally in a pocket of space, and Yildiz having that confidence and that aggression to turn around and get that shot on goal. And when you get shots on goal, cool things can happen. And so a low percentage shot, but an absolute wonderful execution by our two best players.
What a strike. And then, unfortunately, after being up 2-1, Çalhanoğlu scores his second. Marcus Thuram heads it in. And then, Damiano, what happens for the third goal?
I mean, what other way to respond than have his brother also head it in, and with an emphatic header. Yildiz with a great ball in, and Thuram just got in front of him and center of the box, and just watching his hair whip around, and you see his momentum, and he got power behind it and placed it. I think 3 out of 3 perfectly placed balls. These were some precision, goals that we scored here. It was, what other way to come back? I mean, Lillian must have been ecstatic at that point.
Talk us through that celebration, though. That was probably the coolest part.
Doing the same thing as his brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome. But yeah, man.
And then it wasn't.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it wasn't finished there. And then the Adzic strike, which I'm sure we've all seen no fewer than 100 different times on Instagram or YouTube or your social media vice of choice. Zach, why don't you round us out with that wonder strike?
Look, they were 7 great goals. I mean, as much as you hate to see Inter score, all 7 goals were fantastic goals. And well, at least now at this point of the game, where we're into stoppage time, finally Juventus, for maybe the last 15 minutes, was seizing the game. Thuram, maybe propelled by his goal, was finally starting to take over the midfield, and I think he had a pretty weak game up until that point. Finally starts to take over the midfield. Openda is being the pressing forward gnat that he can be. He gets a ball. He passes it back to Thuram, who collects it kind of messily, pokes it around Boni. I know Inter fans are really upset that wasn't a foul, but Thuram pokes it into David.
Good Lord.
Yeah, well, everyone's a victim, right, Kevin? Pokes it forward to David. David does exactly what we brought him in to do. Takes a really clean one-touch back to Adzic, who's wide open. And it might seem obvious, I guess, from a spectator standpoint that, he's got that space. Why don't you shoot it? But I think you have to put it into perspective of a player who only played in less than 90 total minutes of football for Juventus last season. I don't think he's played at all this year. He's not, he's probably the last guy on our bench. To have the confidence, to have the composure, to have the vision and the drive to say, I am going to seize this moment in the 91st or 92nd minute of the Derby d'Italia, and I'm going to be the hero, speaks wonders of his character as a footballer and where he can go. And to see that line drive, knuckling towards the side post where Sommer just could not handle it, and it deflects kind of through his arms into the back of the net, was just an amazing experience. Then to see him celebrating the passion, to see Dusan being the first player to get to him to celebrate with him, I thought was a cool moment as well to cement the game. It was a great moment for us as fans. It was a fantastic moment for Adzic as a player. Beppe was crying. Dusan was celebrating with him. And I think it's just one of those magical moments that really embodies, what's on Damiano's shirt, the fino alla fine attitude of Juventus. And maybe what is the most notable aspect that Tudor's brought this team is that fino alla fine fight to ensure that, hey, this game, and we're going to talk about the tactics from a Juventus standpoint, predominantly sucked, other than the goals. But to able to muscle through and to overcome the adversity, I think speaks volumes of that, and that starts with the coach.
Quick question though: Did Bonnie get up already, or is he still lying on the
No,
pitch?
he's still in the Allianz Stadium.
He's still on the pitch.
I was expecting an ambulance to drive onto the pitch to save his life, because I honestly thought that it was, his days were numbered by the looks of it, and I mean, it's a horrible, horrific thing to see on a live football game, that a player gets down after such a. I mean, you could have swore that somebody threw a hand grenade at him. I mean, it's fucking.
I'm actually curious if we were saved by the ref cam, because you look at what happened to like Kalulu last year, right? When he kind of nudged somebody off a bit, and it looked like they had taken a video from like a satellite in outer space, but they were somehow able to determine that that was a red card offense. And it just, when he was down, I was pretty nervous that was getting called back. And I don't know if this was seen on TV, but there were Inter players swarming the ref at center circle, and the ref was looking at the Inter players going like this and pointing at his ear. And to me, it was, this is getting called back. This is getting called back. But when you saw, I don't know what other camera angles were available, but the ref cam view specifically makes it so obvious that was a flop.
Did you see the
ref cam?
Did you see ref cam in the stadium, Kevin? Did they show it to you?
No, I just saw it afterwards.
Okay, because they showed it to us immediately, and so we were able to see Bonnie's right in front of the ref. The ref is literally right.
Yeah, he had
there.
Such a good view of that.
Yeah. And they used that body cam image through as a first image during VAR breakdown. So I'd say, if you look at it from afar, you'd argue that it could be a foul, but once the body cam images are used, and I think they're used or they're implemented for that specific reason, then you get a whole other view about the action, the flow, and things that happen. So, I mean, obviously, it wasn't disallowed.
Maybe we were saved by ref body cam.
It's about damn time too that the images help us for once in a while.
Wild.
So thank God.
So 4 amazing goals. Zach, I think, rightfully said that Inter's goals were pretty special as well. Credit where credit's due. Hats off to Çalhanoğlu. Those were 2 really well taken strikes. Let's shift to just do kind of a quick assessment of the actual players. So Gazzetta dello Sport, looking at their rankings, Yildiz, as you would imagine, the best rated player on the field for Juve with an 8. Çalhanoğlu, to his credit, also had an 8 for Inter. And then we had Bremer at a 7.5, and then Locatelli and Kelly both coming in third with a 7. And then you have Thuram and McKennie with a 6.5. And then you have Kalulu and Gatti each with a 6. Di Gregorio with a 5, and Koop Miners and Dusan propping up the bottom jointly on 4.5. So I'd like to ask you guys quickly, give your assessment. If you want to give a number from your perspective, do it. Just understand kind of what context has been set by the Gazzetta rating, and just give me a really kind of punchy assessment. No kind of lengthy perspective on the player, just a real quick kind of take. So Damiano, Di Gregorio.
I would say, I mean, he didn't really have any chance. So let's say, I'd say 5.5. Those were 3 solid goals that Inter scored. I mean, he didn't really do much. He was commanding with some headers. I mean, like, he like the aerial, not headers, excuse me, commanding with the aerial, like balls that came in. Like, he went up for him and commanded them, but he had no chance against the Chananoglu ones. I mean,
he doesn't get out of his goal that often, and it bugs me. Like with the corner kicks and the Thuram goal, I'm sorry, keeper needs to be there. I'm very sorry. Like
Turin was a
if you
little
stand on
unmarked,
your
though.
line, yeah, I can imagine. But aerial battles within
You
the
go and
small
punch
penalty
it out.
box, you have to have those as a keeper. You have to punch him
Yeah.
away, take him, whatever. He loses so much of his overall rating just by losing or not being as good in aerial duels or battles. And my opinion.
He
Sorry to
bulldozed
hijack,
Gatti.
Damiano.
No. All good. And Frederic, let's stick with you. Kelly.
Amazing. You could see his progress game in, game out. And I feared that this game would be a bit too soon for him. And I think we all thought that because of the threat that Inter has on the flanks. But he played a solid defensive game. It does help when you have a monster like Bremer by your side, too. I don't think we can emphasize that enough because he's such a strong player. He makes other players better. But Kelly was there also offensively with his first goal. But apart from that, he was very much on the left, a bit of the intersection between our midfield and defense. And I just like the way that he's evolving and improving himself. So let's hope he keeps it up.
Number 1 in passes, tied for second in defensive actions, has a goal. And with his body of work these first 3 games, he has to be the front runner for the comeback player of the year. Rightfully, he was criticized last year, but I think you rightfully, as we said earlier, have to credit the hard work he's clearly put in to improve.
Yeah, we're 3 games in, maybe a bit early to talk about that credential, but
no
he is
leading
that he's
candidate
improving.
for comeback player. There's nobody close right now.
All right, 35 games to go, but I hear you. Zach, sticking with you, Bremer.
How fortunate are we that we have him on our team? Defensive rock, tied with Kelly for second in defensive actions, and the man got probably shafted by those rankings just to be 0.5 behind, because he also produced 2 assists. And so I would put him on par with Yildiz's contribution, because with Bremer and Yildiz and the rise of Thuram, we have some special players on our team.
Damiano, our right wing back, Kalulu.
Kalulu, I would say maybe another 5. He was good, but he held it down. I just didn't. There was not much. He was like kind of just there. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't really super effective, but he also wasn't bad either. So I'd say 5.
And moving into the center midfield, Zach on Locatelli.
I think Locatelli had a really solid game. He was not even close. First in defensive actions. I think his passing was also good. It was very confusing that we subbed him out when we did, especially that we brought Openda in as part of that substitution when Locatelli would be the player.
Was it just Tudor getting the guys with the yellow cards off the field, taking Coop
and
Loca
It probably
off?
was, but I think it was unwise because it didn't seem like Locatelli was really at risk in the way he was playing.
It was his only foul. I think that was his first foul of the game.
He wasn't really at risk. He's the only player probably on our team that will reliably spray the type of channel balls that Openda wants to run into. And part of that substitution, he was replaced by Cabal. We now had 5 center backs and 1 midfielder on the pitch. We'll talk about the Tudor aspect of it, but the substitution I think was unfair to Locatelli, who I thought had a good game.
I would agree. Let's look at his double pivot partner, Thuram. Freddie?
Mediocre game. We're used to Thuram dominating, and he wasn't dominating that much. But also, I think we need to go into that tactically. I don't think it was all up to him or his fault. But after that goal, of course, he got a boost. The Inter that we seen that game was more like loose end at that point, which gave him more freedom, more space. And then he did his Thuram thing and runs and ball recuperations and whatever. So it was an essential part of our win. But you wouldn't say that if you just judge him by the first, let's say, 70 minutes or so. So yeah, it was a game with two standards for Kefren, but quality always comes up on top, and
He did his part.
yeah.
And then rounding out the midfield, Big Mac, Damiano.
I'll give him a 6, solid 6. I mean, his hustle and like this, like for that first goal. I mean, like it was, he created that. He totally was. I mean, and he was going on. He actually, let's say 6.5 because he was battling with Dumfries pretty good down in. You'd see like at the bottom of the screen. He's like they're going at it, and he kind of Dumfries didn't have really a big game, and that McKennie kind of shut him down.
Yeah, I think that was the intent, and I think that worked out pretty well. Frederic, your favorite player on the face of the planet in the history of football, tuned Koopmeiners.
I'm gonna go out, and I know Zach's gonna try to protect.
I'm not gonna try. I'm gonna do.
He's going to. It's do or die for Zach today. I just want to say, before hearing Zach's comments, I always agree with him because he has such great tactical analysis of everything. So I cannot help but to agree with him partially. But the frustration with Koopmeiners for me lies in the fact that we do not see sparks of a player or of the player that he was at Atalanta. And I don't mean that tactically. I don't mean that in terms of quality. But, he did pull out like an impressive amount of kilometers running wise. I think at the end of or in the middle of the second half, he was first with the numbers of with the length that he did. But he was awful. He was goddamn awful. Like every ball control took him too long. Every pass was just not what you expect from somebody of that stature. And I think it's time for us to let him go. I mean, not in terms of, putting him on the transfer list, which I'm sure if he keeps up this performances will happen. But everybody's hoping and cheering and rooting for him to get back to his former self. I don't know if we can expect that at this point because this was a game where you could do that. This was the game where even Lloyd Kelly brought out balls of titanium and played his game with a do or die mentality, whereas Cope was the same Cope once again.
Slow and uninspired.
Slow and uninspired, and no passion, no fire. No, I mean, you have to expect a midfielder of that stature to get in some contrast, argue with some opposing players, or maybe even the ref, swoop up the crowd a bit. I mean, if you're not going to do anything football-wise, at least do that. But
yeah,
it was flat. It was, I don't know. I personally have no more faith in the rebirth of Koopmeiners.
That Adzic goal was something that we were expecting to see from Koopmeiners. We haven't seen any of that. Speaking of favorite players, Damiano, why don't you touch on Duzan's performance?
So I'll start with the good. The good is going to be his celebration for Adzic's goal was probably the best thing I've seen like from him besides in this game. But he wasn't as bad with he did get the balls on net at least, but I think a couple times he got blocked or he just, to me, my issue with him is like, A, he didn't put it in the net. B, his pressing. He just, and his defensive play. It's really, really walking lackadaisical, lethargic, like just nonchalant, like just not. I want to see you I like Kolomwani go after the ball. You know what I mean? You see David they go after him. They especially when they're playing out the back. They apply pressure. Dusan just is like, I'm gonna wait till we get to you guys come to the midway. Yeah, and he walks. He's a walker. Like bro, dude, you got to apply some pressure, and then if he always will pull away, and it's like everybody knows this at this point that you're not going to go and take the ball away. There's no intent. So for me, that's my biggest pet peeve. But offensively, he's got to put the ball in the net. He didn't. I know Zach wants to defend him, so I think due to the tactics, I could see that, but he's, yeah. Go ahead, Zach.
He was
Zach,
celebrating
give
because
you-
of his. He was celebrating because he got a win bonus after that. If you start a game and the team wins, you get that win bonus. I think he was celebrating apart from that.
Like he doesn't get enough.
I want to give Dusan and Coop a pass because Tudor sacrificed them brutally in this game by the way he had this team play, and shame on him for it. I'm so pissed at how Tudor approached this game, especially because these are two players who so desperately need confidence. And he picked a starting 11 that you knew was going to isolate Yildiz and Dusan, unless and only unless they high press the absolute living shit out of Inter, which, by the way, Inter proved against Udinese they're vulnerable to. But no, that would be too obvious for our team. We wanted to sit as far back, maybe further back than Allegri ever had us sit, making Yildiz and Dusan even more isolated and asking Coop Miners to play in a position that we saw all of last year he was unsuccessful in. That is unfair to both of these players and does not put them in a position, nor our team in a position, to be successful. If you're going to be a manager, you need to do a lot better at putting your players in a position to get the best out of them. Why is Coop starting in a more advanced position when he's had him back up Locatelli in the first two games and actually played decent? Makes no sense. Why is he starting at all when you have other guys on the bench that could help link up the attack way better than we knew he ever could in that position? You're certainly not resting them because you don't rest your players against Inter. If it is the only game that you have to win every year. Coop and Dusan were let down by their manager, and I don't want to judge them when they were put in so clearly a position to fail by virtue of the team selection and the tactics that Tudor set up.
While I agree with you, and I know we'll take some time to really focus on Tudor and the overall game management here. Selection choices aside, doesn't excuse like Damiano's point of Dusan not running and not pressing, of his inability to control a ball and lay it off the way David did within 30 seconds of coming onto the field.
80% passing accuracy,
looks
Kevin.
like he has lead weights tied to his feet when he's running. And there's no inspiration. Like, this was the position he played and rocked at Atalanta, which commanded a 60 million fee. So I hear you. I did not like the tactics, and during the first half, I could not figure out, is this what Tudor wanted to do? Or did he just fail to inspire the right reaction from the players? And did the players fail to execute against what he had set up or what he wanted to do?
We know that.
higher press?
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We know what he wanted to do because he told us what he wanted to do.
No, I
and
know, but that
he
was what I
admitted-
was
he-
thinking
he-
during the
and he-
first half. No, I hear you. But that what was going through my mind in the first half. But I do think the tactics ultimately did put them in a worse position. But I still don't think it excuses some of the things that Damiano and Frederic were talking about. But
think
we
it's-
didn't
it's-
get to
it's-
talk about the final player on the starting 11. So Yildiz, Zach, do you want to round that out?
It is so clear that when he's on the ball, the other 21 players on the pitch react. You can see just from the body language of Juve players that when Yildiz is on the ball, they know something good can happen and they start making the runs to help it. You can see in how the Inter players or any opposing players react that when he's on the ball, there's a little bit of panic in their positioning as they scramble to adjust. And to have a player who's that special and has that effect on the pitch is just something that I want us to appreciate and recognize in the moment, because I don't want it to pass us by without appreciating what we're seeing in front of us, the development of a super talent. And he showed up again with that beautiful goal I walked you through, that beautiful assist that Damiano described, bringing his goal contribution in 3 games to 4. So that's just an amazing start to the season for him, and he's just such a special player.
Can
He
I
had
can I
several
highlight
balls.
something
Oh, sorry.
about Yildiz as well? Because yesterday it was very apparent, and we talked about that. I think Zach and I did during Bepe's podcast. He actually loves Juve. You could see the way that he was
Yeah, he does.
celebrating. He
He does.
didn't do the tongue thing, but I saw him in two post-game interviews, and he was so I want this for Juve. Juve is the priority. Doesn't matter how much I score. Just want to help the team. I'm happier. I hope I can keep on doing this for a lot more years to come. And so he's very praising about Juve, about the way that he's given this role within the team, and also during his contract negotiations for an extension, which I hope will follow after 30th of September officially. He's very lenient. He's very, how shall I put it? He puts Juve in front of everything. And if we
which
can
is
build a quality
so good
team
to see.
around him, yeah, I mean, we still lack in quality. Let's be honest here. We have a couple of players like that Zach mentioned that are nuggets of gold, but we still lack in pivotal positions.
Mhm.
Players that can dictate a game. If we can get that and get Yildiz in the mix as well, I think we can, get back to a team that we were used to see playing like 8, 9 years ago. So all
And,
praises and credits to Kenan.
and
And
to touch on
Frederic,
Zach. Oh, sorry.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead, Dave.
Ben.
My
Go
bad.
ahead. No, go
I,
ahead.
I was just say Kenan had several ball like passes like that were just like he threaded it so perfectly. Like it was so beautiful to see his passing was really nice yesterday, and just like really gave us a chance offensively for other. You know what I mean? It wasn't just necessarily his goals that had precision, but his passing was really nice. Yeah, I get sorry.
Yeah, no, it really was, and I'm glad you called that out. I think just to round out with the players, and maybe actually one of the other storylines behind this match was we actually had people to bring off the bench, which is something that we haven't had in a long time. And I think there's degrees of impact from the five that entered the pitch, but there were still people we could bring on. And ultimately, collectively, they did make an impact. So, Frederic, just 2 minutes on just collectively what the substitutions represented.
For me, the substitutions represented a change in pace, a change of play, and Tudor acknowledging the fact that he was wrong. Because you could throw on like the whole bench if you want with all these substitutions that we had. But you could clearly see that from the moment that the subs went in, going from the likes of Openda, Azic, um, João Mario, you could see a different Juventus. And this was the Juventus that had, in my opinion, had to start. And that's where Tudor,
Amen.
shed the bed.
Oh
Shed the
my
bed.
God.
He shed the bed
So,
there. But
so
we reconciled.
yeah,
We got to see good Openda because everybody's talking about Adzic, Yildiz, rightfully so, Turam. But the few moments that Openda had, I think he was very crucial. He was
he's got a
weighing
little
on that
spark.
inter defense.
I just admittedly not a player I know a ton about other than I think the Leipzig match that we had. And I know with him being Belgian, you probably follow him a bit more closely. But now I was impressed with what I saw, especially with him looking a little shell shocked in the speech or the conference that was held midweek.
I use
Coming
pacey. I use
getting
pacey
thrown
little
into this
gnats,
match.
Kevin. Pacey
Yeah,
little gnats.
I like it. I like
and
it.
stepping around, getting the foul that led up to the third goal, stepping in front of his defender to deliver the ball back to Thuram to set up the fourth goal. I mean, that's the type of stuff he's going to do. And I look to see more of that from him because there's some major questions on his contribution in low block teams. So we'll see what he can do. But what he demonstrated against Inter is the kind of impact he can have.
And let's be honest, this is not something that you'll see Dusan do a lot.
No, of course not.
Where he does it, in his first game, not used to anything. Derby d'Italia, high stakes, you're losing. I thought we were losing 3-2 when he came on. Not, the best time or place to make your first appearance for a team after, a reasonable transfer fee. And you still, put in your work and you put in some weight. And I love that. Azic, very composed, thunderstrike. He's a diamond in the rough. I think if we can work for him, give him some more minutes, then I think we could develop him into an interesting midfielder. I kind of shrugged at Cabal's substitution because
Was
he's been out
shocked
a
that he
long
actually
time.
made an
I
appearance. Was
I
shocked.
Yeah.
I thought also it was a bit reckless. Can I use that term for a player that he's been training for what is it now, 2.5 weeks? He's had some problems after his injury, with some lacerations still on a tissue of his ACL. And you could see that he wasn't match fit. Let's be honest here. I mean, he
But
wasn't
I'm glad he's
poor,
back.
but
I mean, like the fact that
of
he
course,
was able to actually come on, whether it was a good decision or not, it's great to have him back.
yeah.
I'll tell
And
you whether it was in like 3 minutes. Okay, so
Well, why don't we just? I think we've been kind of let's get the drumbeat going here. I think we've been building up to taking some designated time to kind of work through Tudor's approach to this match, his starting 11 selection, adjustments that were made or not made throughout the first half, what was said at halftime, how long it took for the subs to come in, albeit having a positive impact that enabled the victory to come through. And here we are talking about a victory. So, Zach, I know you have some things to get off your chest.
go on, Zach.
Coaches are credited with wins and losses, and we won the match. So Tudor can hang his hat on the W that he has. But we just walked you through all the players, and for the most part said that the vast majority of them were impactful. 9 out of the 11 starting roster, most of the subs. And this victory was very much despite Tudor instead of because of Tudor. From a coach, in order to prepare your team, you need to have the personnel right, the tactics right, the subs right, and the mentality right. And the only one of those that Tudor may have gotten correct was the mentality. As I already talked to you about, the team selection was absolutely asinine, especially in conjunction with the deep block tactics. It made no sense, and it was so painfully obvious, even after the first 10 minutes of the game, let alone the 70th minute of the game, when we still were struggling and hadn't made any subs, and we're just relying on 2 wonder goals. He wasted the 73rd minute to bring in subs. Okay, this is where he needs to correct his mistakes, as Frederic says. He pulls off Locatelli for Cabal, who hasn't played in forever and has only been shortly playing with the team. We have 1 midfielder, 5 center backs. Okay, he takes off Duchan and Koopmeiners. That's fine. But we have an imbalanced squad. And what happens 3 minutes later? We concede the 3rd goal. An imbalanced squad where you had a guy who hadn't played in a long time. Guess what? Well, guess who's at fault for marking Thuram? Cabal. And I don't blame Cabal for that. Like with Koopmeiners and Duchan, he was set up to fail by the coach. It wasn't until the 79th minute when João Mario and Jonathan David came on that we finally had a semblance of a team that should have started this game that would provide us with the balance in defense and attack to seize control, to high press, and suffocate Inter. And that's what we did. The personnel was right. And like I said earlier, maybe the only credit I give Tudor is that when in the dying moments of this game, we still were putting together the patterns of play in order to win it, where Inter so clearly was not. But everything else up to the 79th minute, Tudor had gotten wrong, and I'm not going to give him credit for over 11 minutes writing the mistake he's so grossly got wrong for the majority of the game. That sparks me of a manager who's not prepared and or doesn't know his players and or the pathway to win. Now, I'm not signing the Tudor out alarm or anything like that, but I am making note of this game, as important as it was, and how wrong he got it, because I don't want it to become a pattern. All right, I'm done.
If he learns from this, and I think he does, because the way that he talked about, his starting lineup in the post game, You could sense that he was like, I shat the bed here, guys. And I'm hoping he learns from this. However, I must state that if you get a guy like Turin, I think you rightfully expect a coach that thinks a bit more outside of the box. We've been used to Allegri with his low block for years. We hated that. It didn't do wonders for us in terms of trophies, even though we had a lot of good players in that team that Allegri managed. And now we're getting into that loop again, that low block loop, which I hate. And the thing that frustrates me most is we've been active on the transfer market to reinforce ourselves in the forward position, in the attacking position, in the proactive position, so to speak. And what do? We put on a low block and let Inter do what they love to do, and that's just press
That's
us. And then
That's
that's
what
they
killed me,
baffling to me.
Frederic. That's what killed. We just let them do what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
Like, how
yeah.
stupid do
I
you
mean,
And a low
have to
block is one
be?
thing, but to give 6 yards to like Chananoglu, who does this, he shoots outside the box with some like like right outside. Like you can't give him that much space. Like
And
you know,
Zach and I were talking about this Thursday, and I think that we both agreed on the fact that if we can high press the shit out of Inter and grab them by the throat, this should be an easy win. But once again, we make our lives more difficult than it should be just by holding on to that low block and,
So
in
stupid.
my opinion, zone marking. We don't have the players defensively to pull out a good zone marking. We don't. Please hold on to that man-to-man marking, because if you do that, a Bremer, a Gatti is so much stronger man-to-man than in a zone marking. And you could tell Çalhanoğlu was left alone like twice in a row.
Hmm.
He scores. The Thuram goal, I'd feel the same. You could see that zone marking. You could see Bremer pointing out to the players, go on man to man. These are two crucial mistakes Tudor makes. If he learns from this, I'll be happy. If he doesn't, then yeah, we're fucked.
If you had offered Inter 32 crosses, 50% more shots than Juventus, more than 2 times touches in Juventus's box, and 60% possession before the game, which for the majority of the game was 70% possession, they would have taken it and run. Like this, it was a gift. Tudor did everything in his power with the team selection and the tactics to gift them a victory. And it made me, and I'm still, if it's not clear, pissed.
okay, I'm going to go on the defensive on that one, Zach, because I think that I'm going to give Tudor, even though he did shit the bed, definitely with the starting lineup and the tactics, which I agree on. However, I think that let's just say he just wanted to make it dramatic, and B, that mentality that he's instilled in this team gave us the victory. And at no point in this game did I really feel we were going to lose. Even though we were down, I didn't really like last year. I'm totally feeling okay. Game's over. I'm gone. This year,
I'm with you,
I don't feel
Damiano.
that way. And to me that I'll take that. Yeah, I think that he could do better tactically and with the lineups for sure. But the 3 points is the 3 points, and we pulled it out.
So what you're saying is that Tudor was like, okay, gentlemen, in the locker room, let's play like ass for 70 minutes to give Inter false hope. And then it's like the rope-a-dope. They did the rope-a-dope. Oh, just take it on the chin for 70 minutes and then be like, oh, actually, I'm not left-handed. And then squeeze the victory.
Hold up.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that at no point throughout this match did I even feel like we were going to lose. So I mean, like that's
not.
I mean,
that's not always going to fly, because we played against
right
Kivu. We played against Kivu, and Kivu at that point gave us a huge present. The last 10 to 15 minutes, Kivu gave us a huge present because he made substitutions that, in my opinion, were even worse than Tudor's.
Darmian
And he specifically, and you could specifically see him doing the Allegri thing. calma, ease up. Nah, we got time. These guys ain't shit. And then at that point, you get some fired up Juventus players in. You get a goal from a set piece, which falls right out of the sky, let's be honest here, because we weren't pressing, we weren't dominant. And then, the match shifts. And Kivu, instead of doing what he did the whole game, and should tell his players, keep pressure, he doesn't do that. He tells his players to fall back, to stay calm. And then, this happens. And I'm glad, I'm happy, I'm ecstatic, I'm over the moon, I'm still erect. I can't, but
Hello.
I mean, it's not a thing that's gonna happen every time. And
But
I'm not saying that, Tudor should be crucified now, but he needs to reassess that and learn from this, I hope. But
again,
they're all valid points.
to defend Tudor on this one, Lautaro, silence throughout the whole match. Dumfries, silence throughout the whole match. The only guy who really had a really solid Bastoni, Barella. I mean, there was no one really for Inter. It was pretty much the Çalhanoğlu show, and with the exception of an unguarded Thuram with the header in. But I mean, it's not like these guys are nobodies. They're pretty big, stars there. They didn't produce much. I mean, I agree. The low block, we gave them even with the low block, we gave them way too much space at the top of the box for sure. And the starting 11. But at the end of the day, I think that there's pros and cons. You know what I mean?
I think there's a part of me that if I zoom out and look at this match philosophically, approaching it doesn't seem the craziest thing to me where Tudor's recognizing Inter's lost a match already. They went through an international break where their players played 2 times the amount of international minutes that our players did. And that they're still trying to figure out their way with a new coach. They're coming to our house. Let's play a bit defensively and let them run around a bit, having faith in our defense, in which we could get them tired. They've looked tired this entire season, and they just went through international break. And we could bring on these speedy players like a David, like a João Mario, like an Openda at the end and break them down. And I could see that being a reasonable game plan if we had executed it a bit better. But I do think, Zach, we were too far back. I don't think it was executed well, but I could see going into the match with that as a thought process making some sense.
I've said my piece. I think Tudor in the post game said we wanted to do a 3-5-1-1 with a diamond midfield, blah blah blah, changing whatever. It was so disastrous, and it makes me I don't know. I think we just need to see how he adjusts to the games moving forward. Like I said, this is not a Tudor out rant. This is he had a shit day. And let's see what the future comes. Yeah, let's see what the future holds.
The side of this and why we're despite and I'm not trying to defend how we played for the majority of that match. I actually share a lot of your perspective. Just trying to kind of offer a different thought. So as we kind of start to wind this down a bit, I have a question for you guys. Let's rewind to the beginning of last season with Thiago Motta. And I think if memory served me, I should have looked this up. We had the 2-3-0 wins, and then our third match was a draw, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but I think there was a general sense of optimism that we were starting to play in a slightly different way. We were having way more possession than we ever saw under Allegri. And there was optimism around where the season was going, being 3 games in. But with the benefit of hindsight, you could see things in those first 3 matches, which became very predominant as the season continued, which contributed towards the insane amount of ties that we had and our inability to hold on to victories with, again, the aimless possession, the possession without intent. We had scored some goals, and it looked a little bit more pretty because we had more of the ball. But then we saw as the season continued, our inability to build upon that. And what maybe we were overlooking in those first 3 games because we were overexcited about the victory in a new era and this Anno Zero again. Do you think this is something similar? Do you think
No.
we're really excited
No, not
about
at all.
these
No.
3 matches and
No.
we're 9
No.
9 for 9? Do you see history repeating itself in any way?
I don't. I think, and this is something you cannot put into a tactical analysis or into an objective spreadsheet or whatever. This is something that can be quantified, but you can just feel it. The electricity, the fire, the spirit, the wanting to achieve more than we should be happy with. I mean, because let's face it, if we drew 3-3 yesterday, we wouldn't be as negative as we would have been last season. Now we win due to like an Adzic moment, okay, but you could see that the players wanted that 4-3. They wanted that victory, whatever it took. And we didn't never at a certain point in the last season. We saw that under Mota. So for me, it's a big shift, but that doesn't mean that we need to throw out the whole tactical issue out the window and just say, "Oh, the starting 11, I'm just going to pull them out of a hat and everything's going to be okay because we have that Juventinita." No, it's a combination of a lot of factors, but I think the main factor that held us back last year, that fire, that energy, that passion, has been, for now, instilled back into the team. Now it's a matter of getting the other things straight as well.
And that Roma game and that draw that under Mota was really a lackluster performance too. It was like we had
Terrible.
no way we were not going to score a goal. You know,
That match, and I forgot. That's how bad it
Yeah.
was.
it was bad.
I think
No,
Damiano hit on something that actually I was going to say, and I disagree with Frederic in the sense that this is something is somewhat objective. Our ability to create more chances from, to cure the goal scoring woes of last year, it's very clear. I mean, in the Parma game, we won 2-0, so it wasn't as impressive as the 3-0 against Como, but we had double the shots on goal against Parma that we did against Como. So like Como was just an example of super clinical finishing that we just never exhibited for the rest of the season. While here, we're actually getting the numbers, especially the shots on goal, and we know from yesterday that shots on goal could materialize, goals and greatness.
Yeah,
right?
I was more referring to the fact that the draws we had last season that could have been wins just by having a bit more passion and fire and pushing forward every time that we draw. And that was the thing that for me was a make or break, because if all those games that we draw we would have won, then we would have had another title to put back on our badges. So
let's bring it all together. Okay. 1, we are only in those positions because we couldn't score. Tudor's implemented a system that's getting shots in. We're also in those positions because Mota was never able to capture that fino alla fine mentality and pass it on to the players with his coaching with his captain carousel, and all this nonsense. Tudor so clearly has that. Even with a disaster game, it was obvious that the players understood what this game meant to them individually, what they meant to the team as a collective, and what it meant to the fans. You put those two together, and that is a recipe for a potential success this year for this team. And I think that we have, it cannot be overstated, I don't think, that if we can keep Bremer healthy, that's maybe that third ingredient, Frederic, to those ties.
Yeah.
Is that for those late goals we conceded, I think we all agreed last season that at least a chunk of those would not have happened with Bremer on this team. And that automatically would have elevated last year's team as well. So I think those 3 right there all together, at least from what we're seeing from Tudor, has the recipe to actually have us challenge for the Scudetto, like you said, Frederic, win it, or in my case, challenge for it where essentially where Juventus should be, okay, where we need to be.
And even like breaking down like that low block against like, Genoa, who kind of they were like, they parked the bus, like they had all, we scored one goal, yeah, but last year we don't. You know what I mean? So I think I agree. I think there's a big difference on coaching.
Just real quick, 4 out of our 7 goals from set pieces. We have surpassed our set piece goal volume from all of last season, Champions League, Copa, Serie A. We have more after 3
crazy.
games this season than all of last.
Thank you for bringing that up, Zach, man. I was totally thinking that and had it in my notes, and I wanted to make that appointment. I totally forgot about it. Just to bring it up, but right on, yeah.
And I love the passion, the energy. This was such a fun recording, and I think that's what makes yesterday's game so amazing. It was this perfectly imperfect match, right? And
good way to put it.
You take Boniperti's words translated into English, right? Just like winning is not important; it's the only thing that matters. And we walked away with that victory yesterday, and why we're all on cloud 9 today. But it was not a perfectly played match. And despite all these wonder goals and these moments of brilliance and like euphoric celebration and Frederick's continued excitement that's persisting throughout this day, a lot of issues. And it'll be really interesting to see how the team develops. And not much time to take a pause, right? We've got the Champions League coming up on Tuesday, playing against our friends Borussia Dortmund again. So before we wrap this up, Frederick, you got to see Juve play Dortmund this summer. Just give us a minute or two on this game before we bring this one home.
I want to start by saying that it's going to be a completely different game because we played a friendly game, a memorial game on their home turf. It wasn't that important, while this game is. And another thing, Dortmund, they started poorly in the Bundesliga. I think with a 3-3 draw against St. Pauli, if I'm not mistaken. And then the 2 games that followed, they won fairly convincingly, a 3-0 against Berlin. And a game that they played yesterday against Heidenheim, which is not the biggest name in the Bundesliga. But we have a guy there, the forward, attacking midfielder, Kirasi, who joined the ranks. He's on fire. He's a guy to watch out for. But as a whole, and I'm going to repeat myself, if we can, and hello, me Thursday, if we can high press them from the beginning. So please, Igor, no Kop, no Vlahovic. Let's think outside of the box here. We can press them. They can be dismantled fairly quickly if we let them ease into the game. If we give them space, if we give that Kirasi space, if we give Julian Brandt space, then we're setting ourselves up for a couple of goals to be had against them, which is never a good thing. So I hope that Tudor looks back on this Inter game, because the play style that Dortmund has is pretty similar to Inter, not in terms of quality, but in terms of keeping the ball, trying to threat, trying to use the flanks to gain coverage. I'm hoping that we'll see a more prepared Tudor for this game, because it's a really important game, your first game, Champions League. We play at home, we should be able to win it. Let's see how Tudor acts on that game.
And I can't wait for the Champions League to kick off. There's just something special about hearing the Champions League anthem and those magical European midweek nights. And look, building upon a Derby d'Italia victory, 4-3, going into round 1 of the Champions League. I'm excited. Guys, this was an absolute pleasure. I've been really looking forward to this conversation, again, ever since the match ended yesterday. Hope our viewers and listeners enjoyed the conversation as well. And until next time, fino alla fine, forza Juve, Zach, Damiano, Frederic. It was awesome. Enjoy the rest of your days, guys.